Imagine being offered freedom after 21 years in a cold, cramped prison cell, but at a cost that would betray everything you fought for. Would you take the deal or stand firm, even if it meant more years in chains? This is the moment Nelson Mandela faced, a decision that turned a prisoner into a global legend. Stay with me for a story of courage that changed history. My dear friends, in the depths of my imprisonment, I faced a choice that tested the very core of my being. I am Nelson Mandela, and this is the story of 1985, when the apartheid government offered me freedom on a condition I could not accept: to renounce violence and condemn the armed struggle of my people. It was a moment of profound decision, where personal liberty clashed with the greater fight for justice. This tale is one of unwavering principle, showing that true freedom cannot be bargained away, and that a leader must stand firm for the oppressed, even when the door to his cell is cracked open. By 1985, I had spent 21 years behind bars, first on Robben Island, then in Portsmouth prison. The days blended into a rhythm of isolation, hard labor, and quiet defiance. I was 66, my body weary from years of quarry work and the damp cells, but my spirit remained unbroken. The apartheid regime, under President P.W. Botha, was feeling the pressure. Inside South Africa, protests raged in the townships. Outside, the world imposed sanctions and echoed cries of "Free Mandela." The ANC armed wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe, which I had helped found, continued the fight from exile, striking at the heart of oppression. I knew the government was desperate. They had begun secret talks with me, probing for a way to end the violence without surrendering power. But I held firm. Negotiations could only happen if apartheid ended, if all political prisoners were released, and if the ANC was unbanned. Freedom for one man meant nothing if my people remained in chains. Then came the offer, a public gesture meant to divide us. On January 31, 1985, President Botha addressed Parliament. He declared that I could be released if I unconditionally rejected violence as a political instrument. It was framed as mercy, a chance for me to walk free and live peacefully, but I saw it for what it was, a trap. To renounce violence would mean condemning the ANC struggle, betraying my comrades who fought because peaceful paths had been blocked. It would hand the regime a propaganda victory, painting us as the aggressors while they continued their brutality. I was in Portsmouth, isolated from my fellow prisoners, when the news reached me. My heart raced, not with temptation, but with clarity. How could I abandon the cause that defined my life? The armed struggle was not born of hatred, but of necessity. After decades of petitions, strikes, and marches were met with bullets and bans. Sharpeville's massacre in 1960 still haunted me. The blood of innocents cried out for justice. Renouncing violence would mean accepting the regime's terms, where they held the guns, and we held only words. I could not speak directly. Government controlled my words, but I drafted a statement, pouring my soul into it, and entrusted it to my daughter Zindzi. On February 10, 1985, she read it to a massive crowd at Jabulani Stadium in Soweto. The air was electric. Thousands gathered in defiance of bans. Zindzi's voice carried my message. I cherish my own freedom dearly, but I care even more for your freedom. Too many have died since I went to prison. Too many have suffered for the love of freedom. I declared, only free men can negotiate. Prisoners cannot enter into contracts. I refuse to sell out my people, to condemn the ANC or Umkhonto we Sizwe. Instead, I called on Botha to renounce his own violence and state terror that killed children in the streets. The crowd erupted in cheers. My words spread like wildfire across South Africa and the world. Newspapers headlined it, radios broadcast it, and the anti-apartheid movement gained new strength. The offer meant to weaken us, only expose the regime's hypocrisy. My refusal meant more years in prison, 5 more, until 1990. The government tightened its grip, declaring states of emergency, but cracks appeared in their armor. International pressure mounted, sanctions bit deeper. Inside, protests intensified, fueled by my stand. I continued secret talks, but on my terms, pushing for real change. My health suffered. Tuberculosis struck in 1988, but I endured, knowing my sacrifice inspired others. Critics call me stubborn, saying I prolonged suffering by rejecting peace. But what peace, a false one, where apartheid endured? No, my refusal was a beacon, showing that principles matter more than personal gain. It united our movement, proving that we would not be divided or bought. My refusal to renounce violence in 1985 was not an act of pride, but of love, for my people, for justice, for a free South Africa. It began with an offer designed to break me, unfolded through a defiant message that echoed worldwide, and ended with my continued imprisonment, strengthening the path to true freedom. This chapter of my life teaches you that true leadership demands sacrifice, that freedom cannot be conditional, and that standing firm in the face of temptation can move nations. I chose chains over compromise, and in doing so, helped forge the key to our liberation. Let my story inspire you. When faced with injustice, hold your principles close, for they are the true path to victory.